The Honda Shadow refers to a family of cruiser-type motorcycles made by Honda since 1983. The Shadow line features motorcycles with a liquid-cooled 45 or 52-degree V-twin engine ranging from 125 to 1,100 cc's engine displacement. The 250cc's Honda Rebel is associated with the Shadow line in certain markets. History. In 1983, Honda introduced the Shadow series of motorcycles in an attempt to address the needs of the American cruiser market with the VT500C and VT750C. However, due to tariff restrictions in the United States on imported Japanese bikes over 701 cc's, the VT750C was reduced to 700 cc's in 1984 and was sold as the VT700C. In 1985, the tariff was lifted and the line soon expanded to an 1,100 cc's bike, the Vermont 1100C. The VT750C was replaced by an 800 cc's version, the VT800C, in 1988. The VT600C was launched in 1988 as Honda's new entry-level Shadow, though still slotted above the Honda Rebel. The line changed little until the introduction of the 750cc's Honda Shadow Ace in 1997. From 2000 to 2007, the Honda Shadow Sabre replaced the Vermont 1100 until the 1,100cc's class was discontinued in favor of the new VTX line, specifically the 1,300cc's offering known as the VTX 1300. As of 2011, the Shadow brand has been limited to a single 750cc's cruiser available in Spirit, Aero, Phantom, and RS trims. All other offers are known under the VTX or Rebel brands. The RS and Phantom are the two latest additions to the 750cc's lineup from year 2010. Both are fuel-injected. Shadow RS recalls a flat-track racing bike with chain drive, a Peanut-style gas tank and a slightly higher seat height with foot pegs less forward than conventional cruisers. Phantom is more like a conventional cruiser in ergonomics. Models. 125cc's class. The Honda 125 is mainly for the UK and Europe market, as it fits within the restrictions placed on learner drivers in the UK and the light motorcycle license in Europe. It also has a chain drive instead of a shaft drive seen on the larger engined bikes. Sales ended in 2008. 500cc's VT class. The 500cc's VT500C, introduced in 1983, featured chrome side covers and black engine covers. The headlight was chrome and rectangular and had a single horn. The engine was the Honda VT500, a 491cc's OHC 3-valve, liquid-cooled V-twin with a 6-speed, shaft-drive transmission. In 1984, the VT500C was featured include the fuel tank and rear fenders painted the same. The front fender is chrome and this year the side covers and engine covers were painted black. The headlight was chrome and rectangular and there was a single horn. The engine is virtually the same as the 1983 model. The 1985 VT500C had round and chromed headlamps. This model continued with the dual horns. A two-piece seat with an integrated backrest was incorporated. Starting this year, the engine covers were polished chrome and the fins enlarged. The Honda tank decal was curved instead of straight. For the 1986 model year, the VT500C model was virtually the same as the 1985 model. 600cc's VT class. The VLX Shadow 600 was introduced as a new model in 1988. It has a single-shock rear suspension, a low 27.1-inch seat height and a long 63.2 inches wheelbase with a 2.4 US gallons fuel tank. The engine is a 583cc's SOHC 3-valve liquid-cooled 52-degree V-twin with a 4-speed transmission and chain drive. The wheels are spoked. In 1989, the VLX VT600C remained largely the same. VT600C was not made in 1990 but did make a comeback in 1991, offered only in black. The engine and body style was retained from the 1991 model year. A new deluxe version VT600CD introduced in 1993 added more chrome on the engine cases and valve covers. The seat on the deluxe version is soft and tucked. By 1994 the deluxe model was a standard offering for every year the VLX was made. 700 to 800 cc's VT class equals. The VT750C also introduced in 1983 with the VT500C. Special identifying features of this model are the round headlamp, instrument casings and the chromed front fender. The backrest was standard equipment. The painted side covers had the Shadow 750 decal. The engine is a 749 cc's SOHC 3-valve liquid-cooled V-twin with a 6-speed shaft drive transmission. The VT700C was introduced in 1984 as a direct result of increased tariffs placed on Japan's imports. The U.S. raised the import tariffs on engine sizes above 701 cc's. So the engine size was reduced from a 750 cc's to 700 cc's to get the bikes into the U.S. Special identifying features of this model are the round headlamp and instrument casings with a chromed front fender. The front wheel bore a dual disc brake system and dual horns mounted on the front. The painted side covers had the Shadow 700 decal. The engine is a 694 cc's SOHC 3-valve liquid-cooled V-twin with a 6-speed, shaft drive transmission from 1984 to 1987. New hydraulic valve adjusters and twin-plug cylinder heads were used. The VT750C was available outside of the USA with a larger engine displacement. In 1985, the VT700C model featured polished chrome engine side covers. The engine is the same as the 1984 model year. The VT750C was available outside of the USA with a larger engine displacement. In 1986, the VT700C model rear fender took on a flare look over the rounded style. The engine is the same as the 1984 model except polished instead of black with the right engine cover graphic painted black. The mufflers were a little lower and changed from the flare look to a more straight style. The front pegs and controls were moved forward, the rear foot peg support bracket became solid and the backrest was optional this year. The cast wheels changed from a 10-spoke to a 5-spoke design and the access covers were chromed. The VT750C was available outside of the USA with a larger engine displacement. The 1987 VT700C model featured the same engine as the 1986 model but with the right engine cover graphic not painted. The side covers are chrome, 5-spoke cast wheels with a single front disc brake. The VT750C was available outside of the USA with a larger engine displacement. In 2004, the VT750C Shadow Aero was redesigned with larger valenced fenders to give it more of a retro look. It also moved from chain drive to a sealed shaft drive which decreases the amount of required maintenance. As for the engine, it remained a V-twin but included 2 spark plugs per cylinder to increase efficiency. It also got rid of the second carb so only a single carb feeds the engine with fuel. In 2010, a restyled VT750 RS with an O-ring sealed chain final drive joined the heavier Shadow Phantom, Aero and Spirit 750 shaft drive models. VT400 replica, Honda Japan created a series of VT400 models for the Japanese domestic market in 1997, practically identical to the VT750 series but with smaller displacement engines. From 2009, Honda Australia imports the VT400 as a learner-approved motorcycle alongside the popular VT750. 1100 cc's VT class equals, the Vermont 1100C model was introduced in 1985. The dual horns are still located on the front and turning indicators are square-shaped. Fuel and temperature gauges are located on the tank. The new engine is a 1099 cc's SOHC liquid-cooled V-twin with a 5-speed, shaft drive transmission for 1985 and 1986. The engine is the same as the 1985 model. The Vermont 1100C model took on a brand new look for 1987 with a lower 26-inch high seat, a longer 65-inch wheelbase, a 3.44 US gallons fuel tank and a 41 mm extended front fork design. Both mufflers were run along the right side and a small backrest was brought back. The engine is a 1099 cc's SOHC 4-stroke, liquid-cooled V-twin with a 4-speed, shaft-drive transmission. Visually, the Vermont 1100C matched most of the styling cues of the Harley-Davidson FXDWG Wide Glide. The Vermont 1100C model was not manufactured in 1991, but returned in 1992 with a Made in the USA stamp on the seat. This year all bikes had the California option of an emissions control device mounted below the radiator. American Classic Edition equals. In 1995, the V-twin market really got going, and manufacturers expanded their offerings with variants of their standing models. The American Classic Edition was introduced this year. It featured more retro styling than the standard with a full rear fender and induced vibrations and Harley-Davidson-like sound from a single-pin crank engine. The model also lost about 10 horsepower. 1997 saw the standard replaced with the Spirit with more chrome on the engine, also known as the ACE, but the same basic engine as the standard. An ACE Tourer was also introduced based on the 1100 Spirit engine but the ACE styling. The ACE Tourer came with a 2-1-2 exhaust system and hard, color-matched saddlebags. The last of the 6,000-plus Tourer models was produced in January 2001. 1998, in the US, the Shadow 750 ACE, and ACE Deluxe with chain final drive were introduced for the 1998 model year. In 1998 Honda rolled out the Vermont 1100 C3 Aero, based on the Vermont 1100 C3 ACE engine with a single-pin crank, but a larger 2-1 exhaust and more retro styling. The 1100 Aero was discontinued after the 2003 model year, and the shaft-drive VT750C Shadow Aero was introduced as Honda's only 750 cruiser for 2004. The 750 Aero and ACE ended with the 2003 models. Throughout these years the VLX remained essentially unchanged mechanically, but the models and the options were changed yearly, as they were on all models. While many of the manufacturers began to expand 1500cc's class model lines, Honda opted to replace the basic Goldwing Interstate with a basic Valkyrie with 6 carburetors and boosted engine performance. In 1999 a dressed-up Tourer model was added as the Interstate. 2000, Honda Shadow Sabre was introduced, based on the Honda Vermont 1100 engine. The most notable feature was the front cast aluminum wheel. Every model was a shaft drive. 2007 was the final year Honda made the Shadow Sabre. Notes. External links: Honda Shadow at the Open Directory Project. Reviews: 2000 Honda Shadow 1100 Sabre, 2001 Honda Shadow 750 Spirit, 2007 Honda Shadow Spirit 750 First Ride.